The autumn wind howled like a forgotten ghost through the skeletal branches of the old oak tree, whipping at Henry's thin coat as he stood trembling on his own front porch. At 94, his once strong hands fumbled uselessly with the doorknob that refused to turn, the key nowhere in sight, and the realization hit him like a thunderclap was utterly alone, locked out not just from his home, but from the life he had built. Panic surged in his chest, but beneath it simmered a deliberate resolve. This wasn't an accident, and the truth behind it would shatter his children's world. Henry Whitaker had lived in that modest two-story house on Elm Street for over 6 decades, a sanctuary filled with echoes of laughter, arguments, and the quiet hum of everyday love. His wife, Eleanor, had passed 10 years ago, leaving him with memories that clung to every corner like dust on forgotten photographs. Their 3 children, Sarah, the ambitious lawyer in New York, Michael, the overworked engineer in Chicago, and Lisa, the teacher-juggling family in Boston, had scattered like leaves in the wind, their visits dwindling to obligatory holiday calls and sporadic texts. Henry understood. Life moved fast, and they had their own burdens. But lately, the silence had grown deafening, a void that gnawed at his soul. That fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon painting the sky in bruised purples and oranges, Henry had stepped outside to retrieve the mail. Or so he told himself. In truth, he had left the key inside on purpose, a desperate act born from months of isolation. He banged on the door futilely, his knocks echoing hollowly, before slumping onto the weathered porch swing. The cold seeped into his bones, but it was nothing compared to the chill of abandonment. Neighbors' lights flickered on one by one, warm glows of families gathering for dinner, while Henry sat in the gathering dark, his mind wandering back to brighter days. Flashbacks assaulted him. Eleanor's gentle smile as she baked apple pies, the children's giggles during backyard barbecues, the way Sarah used to curl up on his lap with a book. Those moments felt like relics now, buried under layers of neglect. Henry's health had been failing, arthritic joints, fading vision, a heart that skipped beats like a weary drummer. He'd mentioned it in passing during their last call, but Sarah had brushed it off with, "Dad, you're tough as nails. Just take your meds." Michael promised a visit soon, and Lisa sent a care package that arrived weeks late. They meant well, he knew, but intentions couldn't fill the empty rooms. As night deepened, Henry's breaths came in shallow puffs, visible in the frosty air. He pulled his coat tighter, whispering to the stars, "Eleanor, what have I done?" Doubt crept in. Maybe this was foolish, a old man's folly. But he needed them to understand, to feel the weight of what they'd let slip away. Hours passed, or perhaps minutes' time blurred in his solitude. Then, headlights pierced the darkness. A car pulled up, and out stepped Mrs. Jenkins, the nosy but kind widow from next door. "Henry, what on earth are you doing out here?" she exclaimed, rushing up the steps with a blanket in hand. Her face, lined with concern, was a beacon in the gloom. She wrapped the blanket around him, her touch warm and maternal. "Let's get you inside. Where's your key?" I left it inside," Henry mumbled, his voice cracking. It wasn't a lie, but not the full truth either. Mrs. Jenkins frowned, peering through the window. "Well, we can't have you freezing to death. I'll call your daughter." She pulled out her phone, dialing Sarah's number from memory. Henry had given it to her years ago for emergencies. Sarah's voice crackled over the speaker, laced with irritation. "Mrs. Jenkins? Is everything okay? Your father's locked out, dear. He's been sitting here in the cold. You need to come home." A pause, then a sigh. "Locked out? How? I'm in the middle of a meeting." "Fine, I'll call Michael and Lisa. We'll figure something out." Mrs. Jenkins hung up, helping Henry to his feet. "Come stay at my place until they arrive. No arguments." As they shuffled next door, Henry felt a pang of guilt. This wasn't how he wanted it to unfold, but perhaps it was necessary. Inside her cozy living room, warmed by a crackling fire, Mrs. Jenkins brewed tea and chatted about old times. "You know, Henry, families drift apart, but roots run deep. They'll come around." He nodded, sipping the hot liquid that thawed his insides. Little did he know, this night would unearth secrets long buried, forcing his children to confront not just his loneliness, but the fractures in their own lives. By midnight, the children converged. Sarah arrived first, her sleek sedan screeching to a halt. She burst into Mrs. Jenkins' house, face flushed from the rushed drive. "Dad, what happened? Are you all right?" Michael followed soon after, his tie askew from the airport dash. Lisa, the last, pulled up with her husband and kids in tow, turning the quiet street into a hub of activity. They huddled around Henry, bombarding him with questions. "How did you lock yourself out? Where's the spare key?" Henry looked at them, his eyes misty. "I didn't lock myself out by accident," he confessed softly. "I did it on purpose." The room fell silent, stunned expressions mirroring the title's promise. But the reason? That would come later, layered with emotion and revelation. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. "On purpose? Dad, why? That's dangerous." Michael paced, frustration evident. "You could have gotten hypothermia. What were you thinking?" Lisa knelt beside him, tears welling. "Talk to us, please." Henry drew a deep breath, the weight of years pressing down. "I've been alone for so long. You all have your lives, and I get that. But the house, it's empty without you. I needed you to see, to feel what it's like to be shut out." Guilt washed over their faces, but Henry wasn't done. "There's more. Your mother. She left letters. Ones I never shared. About regrets, about us." The twist began to unfold. Eleanor had written confessions before her death, admitting to an affair decades ago, one that produced a half-sibling none knew about. Henry had hidden it to protect them, but now, in his desperation, he revealed it all. Mrs. Jenkins, overhearing, interjected unexpectedly. "I knew about it. Eleanor confided in me. That child, he's your brother, living just a town over." The room erupted in shock, emotions swirling like a storm. This personnel auxiliary Mrs. Jenkins' revelation shifted perspectives, turning Henry's act from mere plea to a catalyst for healing buried wounds. As dawn broke, conversations flowed, tears shed, and bonds tentatively mended. But the full story was far from over. The revelation hung in the air like a thick fog, enveloping the Whitaker family in a mix of disbelief and raw emotion. Mrs. Jenkins, the unassuming neighbor who had always been a peripheral figure in their lives, now stood at the center, her eyes holding decades of unspoken truths. "Eleanor was my best friend," she continued, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "She told me everything, swore me to secrecy. But seeing Henry like this, it breaks my heart. You all deserve to know." Sarah, ever the skeptic, crossed her arms. "A half-brother? This is insane. Mom would never." "But she did," Henry interjected gently, pulling a worn envelope from his pocket, the one he'd carried for years, a talisman of pain and love. He handed it to Lisa, who opened it with trembling fingers. The letter, yellowed with age, poured out Eleanor's words. Confessions of loneliness during Henry's long work trips in the 70s, a brief fling with a colleague, and the child given up for adoption to spare the family shame. Michael sank into a chair, head in hands. "Why hide this, Dad? We could have handled it." Henry's eyes glistened. "To protect you. Your mother regretted it deeply. We reconciled, grew stronger. But as I got older, alone in that house, I realized secrets fester like wounds. Locking myself out. It was my way to force this out, to bring us together before it's too late." The twist of Mrs. Jenkins' involvement deepened the drama, her role shifting from helpful neighbor to guardian of family lore. She produced a faded photo from her purse, a young boy with Eleanor's eyes, taken at the adoption agency. "His name is Thomas. Lives in Oakville, runs a small bookstore. I've kept tabs, with Eleanor's blessing." Emotions cascade, danger at the deception, sorrow for lost time, and a budding curiosity about this unknown sibling. Lisa, the most empathetic, wiped her tears. "We have to find him. For Mom, for us." As the family processed, flashbacks intertwined with present turmoil. Henry recalled the day Eleanor confessed, their marriage teetering on the edge, only to be rebuilt with forgiveness. "Love isn't perfect," he murmured. "It's choosing to stay, to heal." Sarah, pacing, confronted her own neglect. "I've been so wrapped up in my career, Dad. I thought you were fine. But this, it's a wake-up call." Michael nodded, guilt etching his features. "Me too. Work swallowed me whole. I'm sorry." The night wore on with heartfelt apologies and plans. They decided to contact Thomas, but first, they returned to Henry's house. Using the spare key hidden under a flower-potted detail Henry had forgotten, they entered, the familiar creak of the door evoking nostalgia. Inside, the house felt alive again with their presence. They brewed coffee, shared stories, laughter mingling with tears. Lisa's children, wide-eyed, listened to tales of their grandmother's adventures, humanizing her beyond the pedestal. But another layer emerged, Henry's health scare. During the commotion, he admitted to recent doctor visits a shadow on his lung scans, possibly cancer. "That's why I did it now," he said. Time's slipping away. Panic renewed, but it galvanized them. Sarah booked flights home more often. Michael arranged remote work. Lisa planned family weekends. Mrs. Jenkins excused herself, but not before hugging Henry. "You did good, old friend. Families need shaking up sometimes." As morning light filtered through curtains, the Whitakers sat together, united in vulnerability. Yet, the journey to meet Thomas loomed, promising more twists and deeper bonds. The drive to Oakville was tense, the car filled with a mix of anticipation and dread. Henry sat in the passenger seat, gazing at passing landscapes that mirrored his life's chapters, vibrant fields giving way to urban sprawl. Sarah drove, her knuckles white on the wheel. Michael and Lisa followed in another vehicle with the grandkids. Arriving at the quaint bookstore, Eleanor's Pages, a name that stopped them cold, they entered to the chime of a bell. Thomas, a man in his 50s with salt and pepper hair and kind eyes, looked up from behind the counter. The resemblance to Eleanor was uncanny. "Can I help you?" he asked, polite but curious. Henry stepped forward, voice quavering. "Thomas? I'm Henry Whitaker. This might sound unbelievable, but I'm your father-in-law." "No, wait, your mother's husband." Thomas's face paled, recognition dawning. "Eleanor Whitaker? The woman who—" "You're her family." Explanations tumbled out, letters shown, photos compared. Thomas had known he was adopted, had even searched once but stopped to avoid pain. "I named the store after her," he admitted. "The agency told me her name." It felt like a connection. Tears flowed as embraces were exchanged. Thomas shared his Lithia-loving wife, 2 daughters, a quiet existence filled with books. "I always wondered," he said. It's overwhelming, but wonderful." The family spent the day there, stories weaving a tapestry of what-ifs and now-whats. The children bonded with their new cousins, laughter echoing through shelves. But a subtle twist arose. Thomas revealed Eleanor had visited him once, secretly, years ago. She came here, introduced herself as a distant relative. "We talked for hours." She cried, said she was proud. This auxiliary revelation from Thomas humanized Eleanor further, showing her quiet efforts at atonement. It softened the betrayal, emphasizing forgiveness's power. Henry felt a weight lift, his desperate act validated. "We lost time, but we have now," he said. Returning home, the family vowed change regular visits, shared holidays, medical support for Henry. The locked-out night became legend, a turning point of love's resilience. Yet, as Henry's health battles loomed, more challenges awaited, testing their renewed unity. With Thomas integrated into the fold, the Whitaker family entered a fragile new era, one laced with hope, but shadowed by Henry's deteriorating health. The diagnosis confirmed: lung cancer, stage 2, treatable but grueling for a man of 94. Chemotherapy loomed like a storm cloud, but the children's commitment shone through. Sarah took leave from her firm, relocating temporarily. Michael set up a home office in the spare room. Lisa shuttled back and forth, her family pitching in. Days blurred into a routine of doctor's appointments, quiet evenings, and rediscovered joys. Henry, frail but spirited, regaled them with tales from his youth, a Depression-era childhood, World War II service, meeting Eleanor at a dance hall. "She was the light in my darkness," he said, voice thick with emotion. One afternoon, as rain pattered against windows, an unexpected visitor arrived. Clara, Thomas's wife, bearing homemade soup and a hesitant smile. "I wanted to meet the man who raised the woman who shaped my husband," she said. Clara, a retired nurse, offered practical advice on Henry's care, her presence a soothing balm. But she brought a twist. "Thomas didn't tell you everything." Eleanor sent anonymous gifts over the years, books for his birthday, always classics she loved. This revelation stirred fresh emotions, painting Eleanor as a penitent ghost, watching from afar. Sarah, poring over old bank statements, found the transfers small sums to an adoption fund. "Mom never stopped caring," she whispered, tears falling. The family gathered photos, creating a scrapbook that bridged past and present. Laughter returned. Board games where grandkids cheated shamelessly, movie nights with Eleanor's favorites. Henry's strength waxed and waned, but love fueled him. Yet, tension simmered. Michael clashed with Sarah over treatment decisions: aggressive chemo versus palliative care. He's 94. Quality over quantity, Michael argued. Dad deserves a fighting chance, Sarah retorted. Henry intervened, his wisdom cutting through. Listen to each other. That's what family does. Clara mediated, her nursing background invaluable. Compromise, start treatment, monitor closely. As weeks passed, Henry's condition stabilized, but a scare landed him in the hospital, fever spiking dangerously. The family kept vigil, hands linked in prayer. In that sterile room, vulnerabilities surfaced. Sarah admitted her divorce fears. Michael confessed work burnout. Lisa shared parenting struggles. Henry, from his bed, offered solace. Life's not about perfection. It's about showing up, like you are now. Discharged, they returned home transformed. Thomas visited often, his daughters calling Henry Grandpa Henry, filling the house with youthful energy. But another layer unfolded. Digging through attic boxes, they found Eleanor's diary, entries detailing her guilt, love for Henry, pride in her children. A final twist from the past. She had planned to reveal Thomas on her deathbed but couldn't bear the pain. This deepened their healing, emphasizing communication's vital role. Henry, reflecting on his locked-out night, smiled. Sometimes, you have to shut a door to open hearts. As winter approached, holidays loomed first with the expanded family. Plans buzzed. Turkey, decorations, carols. Henry's eyes sparkled with anticipation. Yet, his battle continued, reminding them of time's fragility. In quiet moments, he whispered to Eleanor's photo, "We did it, love. They're together." The story of resilience, forgiveness, and love's enduring power wove on, a testament to human connection. Months later, spring bloomed, mirroring the family's renewal. Henry's treatments progressed, side effects harsh, but managed with collective support. Mornings found him in the garden, Sarah by his side planting Eleanor's favorite roses, symbols of beauty amid thorns. One day, an envelope arrived from a lawyer detailing a small inheritance Eleanor had set aside for Thomas, discovered in old files. She never forgot. The note read. Thomas, touched, used it to expand his bookstore, dedicating a section to family histories. The Whitakers visited, turning it into a ritual. Clara became a fixture, her twist evolving. She revealed her own adoption story, bonding over shared experiences. Families aren't born, they're built, she said. Conflicts arose. As they do, a heated argument over Henry's will, fears of favoritism toward Thomas. But they talked it out, emerging stronger. Henry's 95th birthday approached, a milestone celebrated with fanfare. The house overflowed with loved ones, toasts raised to his courage. In his speech, Henry reflected, "That night on the porch, cold and alone, I thought it was the end. But it was a beginning. You've given me more than years, you've given me life." Emotions peaked, hugs exchanged, promises renewed. As summer waned, Henry's health dipped again, but optimism held. The family, once fractured, now unbreakable, faced the future united. The locked door had opened doors to hearts, proving love's triumph over time. Henry's battle with cancer intensified as autumn leaves fell once more, a poignant reminder of cycles: life, loss, renewal. The family rallied, rotations ensuring he was never alone. Sarah handled mornings, reading newspapers aloud. Michael afternoons, tinkering with old radios. Lisa evenings, cooking comfort foods. Thomas weekends, sharing book recommendations. Clara's involvement deepened, her medical knowledge crucial during a rough chemo round. But she introduced a subtle twist. "I have a confession." Eleanor and I corresponded briefly after her visit to Thomas. She asked me to watch over him. Letters emerged from Clara's attic, Eleanor's words of gratitude, hopes for reconciliation. This auxiliary perspective humanized Eleanor further, showing her as a woman grappling with mistakes, seeking redemption. The family poured over them, tears mixing with laughter at her witty anecdotes. She was flawed, like us, Michael said. That's what makes her real. Henry, weakened but wise, Use these moments to impart lessons. Forgiveness isn't forgetting, it's freeing yourself. As winter gripped, a storm hit literal and metaphorical. Power outage during a blizzard trapped them inside, forcing unplugged bonding. Stories by candlelight, songs from yesteryear. In the intimacy, Sarah revealed her infertility struggles, Michael his anxiety, Lisa her marital strains. Henry listened, offering hugs and advice. Pain shared as pain halved. Thomas shared too, resentment toward his biological parents, now softened by connection. You all gave me what I missed a family. Clara, snowed in with them, became confidant, her presence emphasizing community's role in healing. Spring brought hope. Scans showed tumor shrinkage. Celebrations ensued a picnic where grandkids flew kites, symbolizing lifted spirits. But challenges persisted. Henry's memory lapses, early dementia signs. The family adapted, labeling drawers, reminiscing to anchor him. Another revelation. Digging through papers, they found Henry's warm medals, untold heroism stories. I never wanted praise, he said. Just peace. This inspired a family trip to a veterans memorial, honoring his service, strengthening bonds. Summer arrived, Henry's 96th on the horizon. Health stable, they planned a cruise-first vacation together. Reflections abounded. The locked-out night, once desperate, now legendary. It saved us, Lisa said. Henry, gazing at his family, felt profound gratitude. Love isn't grand gestures, it's daily choices. As the story unfolded, values shone, empathy, resilience, the human spirit's capacity for growth. Years blurred, Henry's journey winding down. At 97, surrounded by loved ones, he passed peacefully, his final words, "Thank you for coming home." The funeral overflowed, tributes pouring in. Thomas spoke. He locked himself out to let us in. In aftermath, the family honored his legacy regular gatherings, support for each other. Sarah started a foundation for elderly care. Michael mentored youth. Lisa wrote a book on family secrets. Thomas expanded the bookstore, a hub for stories like theirs. Clara remained close, her twist complete. I'm family now too. Generations later, the tale endured, whispered to children. A man locked out, reason stunning, but love prevailing. It taught, cherish time, forgive freely, connect deeply. In the end, Henry's act wasn't folly, it was profound wisdom, echoing eternally. The Whitaker legacy lived on, a beacon of human values amid life's tempests.